I'm Annetta Hunter, and I'm here with Eric Hanks, and we're going to talk about what are the outcomes of working with him in hypnotherapy. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about some stories he has had from his past clients and the outcomes they've experienced working with him. So, hi, Eric.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good. How are you today?
Good. Thank you. So, what are some good outcomes that you've had experience with?
Well, I've had a lot. I've had some good outcomes. Sometimes there's some gray area in the good part of the outcome. The ones that are the most memorable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most of the time the really good outcomes, people don't contact me back to say anything. I check back with them, and a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, and they're still not smoking, or they've lost weight and they've kept it off. Those are good outcomes.
Yes.
But like the most memorable ones are the ones that stick in my mind. Well, there's the more recent. Maybe a month ago, I had a guy who is a wonderful, amazing artist. His videos are like so good, but at the same time, he hasn't really made it yet to like that big league level. And he's working several jobs at the same time. He's got a little girl he's taking care of, and he's saving all that money he even sold his vehicle,
That's amazing.
and then got a vehicle that was way less awesome, but so that he could have money to make more videos. He's putting his money into making his videos and traveling, to locations for this. And this guy, he and I were talking, and he said, man, the thing is, I'm just so overwhelmed right now, and he knew I was a hypnotist, and he said, can you do anything for that? I said, absolutely. Being overwhelmed. And I've done several for that that are super memorable because of the outcome. Anyway, it's been a month later. Only did one session. This one's also memorable because he'd never done hypnosis before, and he was giggling a lot as he was going under, which some people, I have had several people do. They giggle a lot as they're going under because they can feel it coming on, and they're like, "This is so weird. I feel it. I can feel it." So I said, "It's okay. You can, it's all right. You can giggle all you want, or anytime you want to giggle, or just go right ahead. And you'll still keep going under. And every time you giggle, I said." Every time you giggle, anytime you do, I'm going to snap my fingers and it's going to take you 10 times deeper. And then he started laughing. I snapped my fingers to him. Anyway, this one was really great. I remember this one really well because when he came out of it, he was so excited about it. He was so excited about it. He was like, that was the most amazing experience I've had in my life. But he, a month later, I asked him yesterday. I contacted him. And said, how are you feeling? He said, fantastic. No stress, no overwhelm. I'm still doing all these things and I feel great. So that's one where that outcome, for him is that he's going to be able to keep doing what he's doing, trying to live his dream without the pain of it, the pain of being overwhelmed.
That's amazing.
And that's very helpful because it's keeping a positive mind.
That's right.
And just driving forward with positivity is a great outcome. And I think the one that I tell people about probably the most, that is the most sticks in my mind, is one of my very first clients that first year in 2006. A professor at the university that I went to and graduated from already, but I was working in the tutoring center, and this professor wanted to quit smoking. He comes down to the tutoring center, and he said, I hear you're doing hypnosis now. I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, I'd really like to quit smoking. I mean, he goes, I can't, I'm just a chain smoker. I'm like, I know, I see you out there all the time in the smoking area, which universities all used to have one. And So I do this consultation, did my interview with him, found out he really loved the Grand Canyon. That was like the most beautiful place he could ever, he'd ever been in his life. And so he, I asked him, what do you like about it? He goes, I like this, that, I said, what was it like when you were there? So I was going down this trail, down towards the bottom, and when I got down there, I found this really great piece of petrified wood, and I thought that was so cool. Well, I had a piece of petrified wood that I had picked up when I was down in Texas, I think, or and it was really smooth, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna write this whole script out for this guy. It's gonna go with all his things, and then at the end, I'm gonna present him with this piece of petrified wood. Before he's even out of hypnosis, I'm gonna have him, give it to him, put it in his hand or whatever, and so I did. Well, I saw him 3 times, and on the 3rd visit, that was our final at the time, and I gave him the petrified wood, and he quit smoking. I mean, he quit smoking for over 3 years, 3.5 years, and I went to the university like 4 years later or something, or 3.5 years later, and the parking lot where I had to park was, you had to go through the smoking area to get to get inside. It was like a back door area. There he was, smoking. I'm like, what? So this is okay. This is about outcomes, but this one is memorable because he had turned this piece of petrified wood, which I had given him to keep in his pocket or keep somewhere where he would look at it when he walked by, and it would always like just send this. It would be a reminder, or what I call an anchor.
Yes.
It would be an anchor for him.
Yeah.
Well, he loved it so much. He tried to wear it around his neck. He drilled a hole in it and tried to wear it around the neck. And he's like, I didn't really like that, so I decided to put it on my keychain. He said, just days ago, he goes, I did not smoke any cigarettes for all this time, but just a few days ago, I was in the kitchen fumbling with my keys. This thing was now on my keychain. It hits the floor and shattered.
Oh, no.
I started smoking the same day. I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, that's a lesson for me. It was but the outcome was, for him, he didn't smoke for 3.5 years.
What a great.
Yeah. So it was a good outcome.
Yeah.
Just a good lesson for me. Not to have someone, to make sure someone isn't dependent on, and he called it his talisman, and that's where I got that from.
That's great.
An anchor, I call it. But anyway, that's a great story.
Interesting time that you happened to come by.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
and that's
I
one of
think
those
there's no
things.
mistake.
Exactly. That's one of those things that where you have this sort of synchronicity.
Exactly.
And I'm like, wow.
That's right.
That's so weird because I hadn't been there in so long. And now I show up this day for my transcript, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
To go pick up a transcript. And there he was, and he's just started like a few days before. So it was a good lesson for me.
That's amazing.
And I had for very good outcomes, I had 2 pro wrestlers who I was working with, and they wanted to they were roommates. I got with the one first, and then while I was doing that, the other one would walk by and watch from the hallway.
Wow.
This big, giant guy, behind me.
Right.
And then, he was like, hey, can I do this too?
Oh, wow.
I'm like, yeah. So I started hypnotizing them both for confidence.
Oh,
they wanted the stage presence,
because
they're part of the Screen Actors Guild or the Stage Actors Guild or whatever it's called. But they wanted to have like an amazing, confident presence in front of the crowd,
Right.
And so the outcome there was it worked great. We looked at the videos that they were VHS back then. We looked at the videos of them before and after, and also, I watched them on TV. I never really watched much on TV before this, and it was very noticeable.
That's
they were
amazing.
just full of
Wow.
all of this, confidence. They were, they kind of ad lib.
Yeah.
I asked
They
them,
do
well, you
for
have
the
lines?
acting.
Yeah, kind of have like a
Mhm.
vague outline, but mainly we ad lib, and
Mhm.
they were really great.
Oh, that's amazing. Need to tell my boys about that. They love WWE and they swear that it's real.
Yeah. Well, I found out. I mean, I knew it wasn't real before that, but
Mhm.
they were explaining it all to me.
Mhm.
But it's still it's physical,
It is.
and people get hurt.
Yeah.
So
They do.
it's not the safest profession.
Mhm.
Then had a guy who wanted to get better at golf
Mhm.
and not pick his head up. If I remember, yeah, it was not wanting to pick his head up or something while he was swinging. That worked great. The guy came back, told me like, I'm doing great.
Jeez, that's amazing.
Had a guy with ED
Right.
who was only 38 years old and had ED already.
Mhm.
And he was so busy. I mean, when I interviewed him,
Right.
he was just the most busy person I'd ever seen in my life. And I'm like, well, overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe,
Mhm.
he says, it's just like, can you ever turn off your brain?
Yeah.
No. Like he could just never turn it off. He was just
Oh,
constantly
gosh.
like thinking everything.
Right.
And so the outcome I did with him, an overwhelm hypnosis to help him with that
Mhm.
the first time. And then I didn't, before I did an ED hypnosis after in the
Mhm.
second session, but didn't even really, after the first one, he was already doing better.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And
Wow.
another one, a guy who wanted to have more confidence with his wife at home because his wife controlled everything, he said. She was nitpicking, and this was a younger guy. He was probably 30, 31. His wife was in her 20s, but she was ruling, everything.
Yeah.
And he didn't like that.
Mhm.
And he said, that's not me. That's not how I was. But after I got married, that's kind of how things became. And I said, oh, I get it. I understand. It's the same. I should probably be hypnotizing myself for the same thing. Anyway, so I did 3 sessions with him. And this guy, I should find out where he's at now and try to get a review from this guy. This guy, he says, she would like to thank you.
Oh wow, that's
He says,
huge.
Mom, she wants to thank you
Wow.
because he said because I was being honest,
Right.
and I was asserting myself
Exactly.
more, and she said, she says, this is I like this you.
That's amazing.
She said, "This is I." She said, He said his wife told him that she didn't want to be that way. She felt like she had to be that way because he wasn't being
He wasn't stepping
the
up
assertive,
to do that.
in control person that
Right.
she wanted him to be.
That's amazing. And it's really funny when roles do get switched. There is this unease by the person who has to take control at that point, and they really don't like it. So the woman feels like this isn't natural for me to have to do this. So yeah, that's amazing that you're able to turn that around.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. I really do. I think that our society is kind of moved in a direction of demasculating, men a little bit,
Yeah.
making men more wary of being more assertive. And yes, there's people who take things too far, of course.
Oh, sure.
But I think that's just. I think women are disappointed in our society,
I
especially
think
once
so.
they get to when they finally get to an age where they have a partner long term.
Right.
It's disappointing to not have a man who is more masculine.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like you said, society has played a big role in the way men project themselves now. And women, we have also evolved into this place where we have to take control because we are out in the workforce more. We're doing more.
Oh yeah.
And so we are the leaders and bosses at work. And we come home, and then if we still have to be the leader and the boss, we don't like it so much. We want someone to take control for us at that point sometimes. And, or just have a co-equal balance. So it's very interesting. Very interesting.
And
That's
then
great.
this is the one I tell. Maybe this is the one I tell the most, more than the other. The guy who dropped his talisman and broke it. But a different professor came to me. He actually contacted me by phone. And he said, you still doing hypnosis? This was a couple years later. I said, yeah. And he said, man, he goes, I have someone for you. He goes, I have never seen test anxiety this bad in my entire life, and I'm 70 years old or something. So I've never seen anybody with test anxiety this bad. This woman, every time you put a test in front of her, she shuts down. She's always the last one done. She doesn't finish her test. And she says she just has terrible test anxiety. She gets the shakes. She cried once. He said, can you do anything about it? I said, sure, give her my phone number. So she calls me, and then I met with her and did the consultation. And it's also memorable because it was the first time I ever alerted someone, have you open your eyes and stay in hypnosis, and we're going to continue to have a conversation. So that was memorable. But so what I did was I gave her a pencil with a pink eraser, and because that's what she uses on her test, she said, and then I said, now turn it towards you so that all you can see is that pink circle of the eraser, because it's a brand new pencil. I said, now focus on that. She was still under hypnosis at the time, and I said, now, sleep. And she went down. Pencil was not sharpened, by the way. And I said, every time that you get into a situation where you have work or a test in front of you and you're nervous, you're going to turn the pencil and you're going to look at that, and you're going to remember this. When you look at that eraser, that's going to be your anchor. That's going to bring you back to all these suggestions, and you're not going to feel any test anxiety whatsoever. And so basically, a little while later, I'm in the tutoring center talking to some friends of mine. This guy was a professor I hung out with. And this young woman, she comes running into the tutoring center. And she was so excited. She was like, like excited. She goes, she says, I did it. I looked at I got nervous. I looked at the eraser. I had no test anxiety. I was the first person done with my test. And, when you finish your test, you get to leave the room.
Exactly.
So she left the room, and she came down to tell me how excited she was. And about an hour later, the professor actually came all the way down stairs and came in to talk to me, and he said, whatever you did, it worked great, because she didn't have any anxiety whatsoever. He said it was pretty amazing. I was watching her, I was really paying attention, and she just zoomed through that test like it was nothing for her. She turned hers in before anyone else. He said, however, he said, hypnosis doesn't really help a person if they don't know the material, does it? I said, no. He said, because she got the worst score in the class by far. It was the worst. She got like an F or a U. It was like the worst score. He said, but she wasn't anxious. He said, maybe next time. I told him what I did, the control room where you dial it, you dial your anxiety level. And he said, maybe you can dial something else, this way, or maybe the dial for actually learning the material. Maybe try that next time.
That's fantastic. Well, you've got some amazing stories, Eric, and I think a lot of people would benefit working with you. So where can they reach you if they would like to set an appointment for hypnotherapy?
Well, someone could go to my page at facebook.com/QM Hypnosis.
Great.
Or they can go to my email, qmllcusa@gmail.com, or they can contact me. My phone number, 502-345-0397.
Excellent.
And
well, that's awesome.
Texting is preferred.
That'd be great. Definitely. Well, thank you so much. I think so many people need help. And today, this is one of the modalities that we can actually use that's non-invasive, that is effective and quick, and people get healed. They get, well, you can't say healed per se, but you can get a lot of help with whatever you're
Absolutely.
dealing
You
with.
can delete some
Yes.
problems.
It's a reprogramming
Yeah,
of
it's
the mind a little
reprogramming.
bit. Yeah,
A little bit.
that's great.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much again, and you guys contact him. He's the real deal.